Well, hello everyone, and welcome to our virtual sip and sail. Tonight we're going to discover the taste of Bordeaux, and very excited that you could join us. And unfortunately, we can't do it in person yet, but we're hopeful in the coming months with the announcement of the vaccine that life will return to normal. And that's one of the reasons why that we're having this presentation is certainly the Taste of Bordeaux cruise is happening in 2022, and we're very hopeful that things will be back to normal then, Sandra. So
Yes.
I'm here with my co-presenters tonight, Sandra Gardiner from AmaWaterways, and a little bit later you'll be hearing from Darlene Myers, who's the sommelier who's joining me on the actual cruise. And one of the things I want to mention up front is if you have any questions, there's a question box on the right-hand side of your screen. So type your questions in there, and we'll be happy to answer them at the end of the presentation. And there's also a chat box there as well. So if you want to chat to others on the recording tonight, and I should mention that it is being recorded. So if you know people that want to listen to the presentation later, I'll be sending out the links to everyone that's on, and if those that can't make it tonight will also get it, but you can forward the link to anyone you know that might want to learn about river cruising. And something I completely believe in, and I should say, I'm Richard Arnold, Atlantic Tours, President and more important, Director of Fun. And as Atlantic Tours has been around for 51 years, and I've been with the company 33 of those, and most recently, the last 10 or so, my business partner, Gary Biddle, and I purchased the company. And like I said, as we age, we want to see a bit of the world. And so every year, I like to host a couple trips, and I've enjoyed very much the river cruising. And AmaWaterways is the perfect partner. As you see here, you see two of the owners in the forefront holding the champagne glasses. That's Rudy and Christine. And the gentleman in the rickshaw, that's Gary Murphy. They're the three owners of AmaWaterways. That company's been in business for 18 years. I've known them right from the beginning when they started out, and they worked for other cruise lines and actually started some of the other river cruise lines, took all of their knowledge, and with that knowledge, created what I believe to be the best river cruise line on the rivers in Europe and other spots like Africa and
Southeast
Asia. Yeah. So it's it's certainly a wonderful experience. And what I like is being family owned. Like Atlantic Tours, family is very important, and that resonates throughout your cruise. All the staff seem to have the same spirit and energy that these three owners that enjoy every time I see them. There's no way that ever could be faked. I mean, they've always been very warm, very family oriented. And like I said, when you go on the cruises, you certainly get that feel. As I said, the Taste of Bordeaux trip that we're hosting in 2022 is going to give us a great feel for Bordeaux. And of course, when you mention Bordeaux, what comes to mind is wine and good food, and that's what river cruising is all about. And there we go. What you're seeing here is the Alma, which is the ship that we'll be using on this particular cruise in Bordeaux. And I always like to use this visual as a description of how the ship is sort of laid out. At the center of the ship, that is your lobby. At the back, where you see the windows, that is where your accommodations are located. In the front of the ship, where you see the larger windows up above, that is the lounge area, which I call the living room, because that's kind of the feel like you're in a big, giant living room with floor-to-ceiling windows, and you get to look at all the panoramic view as you're cruising. And then the deck above that is the total upper deck, where you have nice, comfortable chairs to sit out. There is a walking track and lots of other amenities there, like a hot tub, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Like I said, when you go into the lobby of the ship, if you go up from the lobby a few steps, you'll be on the upper floor of accommodations. Down a few steps, the next floor of accommodations. And the living room that I mentioned is at the same level as the front desk. And when you go down the steps to get, or up the steps to get the accommodations, that's basically below that living room is where the dining room is located. Once again, beautiful views from the dining room, and certainly a wonderful experience. One of the great things about river cruising that I enjoy is you pay pretty much for your entire trip up front. There's very little optionals or extras. So I always say the sticker price sometimes can be a little shocking when you see the price, but there's very little else to pay for. You can easily do a complete cruise, get off the ship, and maybe only have 20 or 30 euros on your bill, or maybe even nothing, because your wine, your excursions, everything are included. So then you're not always reaching in your pocket. I always say a lot of cruising, the big bill is what you pay when you're getting off, Sandra. So
That's right.
with this, that's not the case at all. And in fact, there's only ever 1 or 2 items on any cruise that are even over and above the cruise, and you would have an excellent time without even doing those. So sometimes there's a few little options that are there if there's a concert or something you may want to attend. The entertainment is included on the ship every night. There's entertainers coming on, so it is a great experience. This is what your accommodation will look like if you're in a category C, B, or A. And this is a typical suite. What you see with the 2 chairs in the background is your French balcony. So it's like a patio. The door completely moves across and you can fresh air look out from your room. A lot of the ships also have the dual balconies because AmaWaterways was one of the company, or the only company, that came up with that initially. It was kind of revolutionary in the industry to have both a French balcony and an outside balcony. This particular ship that we're on has the French balconies, and as you can see, it's a well-appointed room. If you're sharing a room with someone that's not sleeping with you, all they do is take those beds and divide them in half. So you're sleeping in your own accommodation. Well-appointed washrooms and very, very comfortable accommodations. And I guess I'm going to jump back a slide again. So what you're seeing in the back of the ship, the 2 upper floors, those would be your French balconies. Now, as I mentioned, there are category D's and E rooms, and that would be the lower level where you see the fixed position windows. Once again, very comfortable accommodation. The only difference is you don't have a full wall that moves and you don't have a window that opens, but you're going to spend very little time in your cabin. And even on this particular ship, a lot of singles will choose the category D and E because there's a single supplement reduction for singles traveling in the 2 lower categories. But this particular ship has 2 rooms at the category C level that are meant for singles, and they're just a little bit smaller. I got that right, Sandra?
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
And incredible crew. The crew, and I should mention that on this ship, there's about 70 rooms, so you're going to have no more than about 140 people. And from the time you arrive, they treat you like you're the only guest on the cruise. They couldn't be any friendlier or warm. The day that you check in on the ship, they always have the living room, the lounge open. They have great treats out until your rooms are ready. They actually contact you when your room is ready and introduce you to your room steward and all of that. And your cruise manager will be there, of course, to greet you as well and stay with you throughout your cruise, and will do anything they can for you. It's amazing the detail of the service that you get on board AmaWaterways. Also, they have complimentary high-speed wireless internet throughout the ship, and in your room they have nice Mac TV screens, which also work as your connection to the outside world through internet. So you don't need to bring your tablet or your devices along unless you choose to. It's all there. I always like to give a caveat. The internet is included, but there are spots on rivers where you don't get service. That can happen every now and then when you're crossing from one boundary to another, but in essence, you're not paying anything extra for it. It's included in your cruise. As far as the award-winning Culinary, one of my favorite parts about river cruising is the Culinary, and especially with the AmaWaterways, the 3 owners cruise all the time. They're always evaluating, they're always looking for feedback, and wine as well as food is very important to them. And every night they will have all their menus are inspired by the regions you're in. So their chefs will come up with culinary delights and treats that really showcase the culinary of the area. And so there'll always be choices. In addition to those, there are standards that are always there as well. When I say standard choices, so your choice is to have a steak every night, steak will be available, or a chicken, or a fish dish. They'll always be there, a nice vegetarian option, in addition to the menus that they've come up with about the region. So those are always available.
And you're never going to lose weight when you go on a river cruise, right?
Absolutely not. I mean, it's just, every night you're given the itinerary for the next day. You'll know what time breakfast is starting. You'll know what time breakfast is ending. And then there's the extended breakfast. So for those that want to lounge a little bit longer in their room, certainly there's no issue with that. You can have, in that living room area, there's always things available for snacks or for a more continental style breakfast, coffee and tea stations, and fresh water stations, as well as sparkling. And I know that the line has been moving away from plastic use bottles.
Yes.
So generally, most of the ships, I think, have now been equipped with a bottle you'll get when you arrive that you can refill at the refill stations.
No,
Now,
actually glass bottles on board and Tetra Packs. We're using that when we go on shore. So it's changed a little bit
that's
again.
during
Yeah.
COVID, and we may
Yes.
go back to the
Yeah.
other
Yeah.
eventually. But those are all of the things that are happening. There's lots available there, and like I said, every day when you're out doing your excursions, we always come back to the ship for lunch, or there's a lunch arrangement made for you if we're extending past the normal lunch time. And you always have the ability to stay in town and do things on your own. You're not forced to come back, but there's always the option to come back, have lunch on board, and then go back and explore some more on your own. And in the evening, dinner is always included as well. And there's a time frame that's listed in your itinerary each day based on our sail times, our port of calls, our excursions. All of those are taken into effect in coming up with the itinerary each day. The award-winning dining, as I mentioned, it's all locally sourced. Every day when you're watching us in the ports, you'll see fresh local produce and meats coming on board to satisfy the chef's creation for the evening. We do have multiple dining rooms. This ship has 2 dining rooms. There's the main dining room, and then there's the chef's table. And the chef's table's dining room is located at the back of the ship. And the regular dining room, as I said, is under the living room on the main front of the ship. And the chef's table is the same menu every night, so every person on the cruise gets to enjoy the chef's table, but you actually see the food being plated and prepared for you there, with all the different pairings of the different kinds of wines with the different courses. And just a wonderful, wonderful experience. So when we travel over there as a group, generally we all go together on one evening, have the special chef's restaurant all to ourselves, which makes it wonderful. Here's an example of some of the people that were on our last cruise. There I am, sort of in the middle of the table, but this would be in the main dining room. Some of the options, the different size tables there. There's spaces for just couples to sit together, tables of 6, and it really becomes a family. It truly does. We'll have our family, our group family, and then we'll be talking to other people, and the family expands pretty quickly. And it's such an intimate experience to be on a cruise with only 140 people.
Absolutely.
And the other thing you'll notice is that this would be evening for dinner. So you see some people with jackets, but ties aren't mandatory. It's a very casual, comfortable. I always say when we're out, we all have often, if it's warm enough, we have our shorts on, our walking shoes. We go out and we do the walking tours or motor coach tours, depending on where we're located. But a lot of the tours are walking tours. When we come back at lunch, we go and have lunch with the same outfits that we have on. And in the evening, we always get cleaned up for dinner. So it's not meant to be, what's the term you use?
I say it's upscale, but not uptight.
That's right, upscale, but not uptight. And you'll find people that take river cruises are a fun, loving bunch that aren't pretentious. They're very down to earth.
Right.
They're there to learn. And I mean, the guides are just phenomenal. So there's a lot to learn, and then they get to enjoy the meals. And you're always going from your dinner upstairs to see what the entertainment's going to be, because you bring people in each of the ports to entertain us. And then there's always kind of a fun night. I always look forward to disco night. It's amazing, because I always thought, well, in the old days, the older people wanted country music. Well, now those of us that are getting older, we grew up on disco.
Exactly.
So that's always a big hit on that one fun night. that they step away from the local entertainment. And here's an example of the Chef's Table restaurant that I mentioned, with the kitchen area off to your right, very comfortable with lots of windows and a great time for us to socialize as a group when we travel as a group.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, the menus, it's course after course.
Yeah,
you don't have to eat it all, but if you do,
No.
you're pretty full
Yeah.
by the end of the evening.
Exactly. It's a tasting menu, so you
It
get the
is.
opportunity to try some different delicacies from the area you're in.
You sure do. And every night, one of the other additions that came out a few years ago is a sip and sail cocktail hour, and that's every night before dinner. So if you imagine you get up in the morning, have a nice leisurely breakfast, your shore excursions will happen generally between 8:30, 9, maybe 9:30, depending on which one you choose, or which ones you choose. And then you come back and have lunch. You'll go out on an afternoon excursion. Now, some days we'll have sailing, and the sailing might be in the morning where you sit back and on the upper deck or in your room and look at the beautiful scenery going by, or it'll happen in the afternoon. And then when you get back from your excursion at 5, you're going to go get cleaned up, and you don't want to miss the sip and sail that often starts at 6 and then dinner at 7. So you can see, you can make this as full an itinerary as you want. Absolutely. Or as leisurely as you want, but no one wants to miss the sip and sail where all the cocktails, whatever you want, are included once again, and all your meals, let it be breakfast if you want some sparkling wine, or lunches, your wine and beer are included, the same with your dinner and night. As long as you're in the restaurant, it's all included. This is the view of the panoramic lounge that I mentioned in the front, which I call the giant living room. Enough seats that can hold up to 140 if that's what we have as our maximums in 22. Right now, I know there's reduced in 21 based on the COVID restrictions and those kind of things. But with that all said, as you see here, very, very comfortable chairs, and there's a mixture of tables and chairs and sofas and love seats. Very, very comfortable, and a full bar located there. Once again, even if you wanted to buy a bottle of wine on one of these cruises, you're only looking at 30 to 40 euros for a bottle of wine if you wanted to go above what you're already getting, but there's no need to because it's included with your meal, and you can also bring wine on to have in your room as well. There's no restrictions on that as well. Christine, was very important to her a few years ago to up the game once again. I mean, they were leaders and continue to be leaders, even though they're fairly new in the 18 years that they've been in business, always making upgrades and inclusions. They've always had spa treatments, which are wonderful. They've always had a hairdresser and that kind of ability there, but now they have a team dedicated to exercise as well and wellness. So as you can see, yoga classes, there's the little gym area there, and there's some of the fun people that are going to look after you. And on every day's excursions, there's usually an excursion that has biking available.
Yes.
So if those that have the energy and the willpower to go out and do a biking excursion, the cruise ship itself carries a number of bikes, and you're hosted by one of these wonderful people that take you out on a biking excursion. But like the shore excursion manager, or the cruise ship manager, I would say if you haven't biked in 20 years, don't start on your cruise. You need to work up to it because there's no way for you to kind of get back. You need to finish the distance that you're going, but they're very comfortable rides if you chose that option. The other thing is the beautiful hot tub on this. Some of the ships also have pools. This one has a hot tub, and you can see the comfortable upper deck with seating and, like I said, walking trails, tables. A great spot to sit and look at the beautiful scenery. Explore at your own pace. Early or late risers, as I mentioned, you always have that option. There's all tours don't leave at the same time, and if you want to go out and do your own thing, there's no restrictions. Every day it's posted what time they're going to sail and what time you need to be back on board. And every time you get off the ship and every time you get on the ship, your key card is scanned, and so they know exactly who's on and who's off.
Exactly.
The other thing is the excursions themselves are excellent. And I know right now there's even reduced numbers, but a lot of people on a walking tour is really 15. So, I mean, they do very comfortable excursions. You're always provided with a wonderful headset that works amazing. In fact, I'm going to be getting some for our company on our trips because it really takes the experience to another level. When you're out doing a walking tour, you can take pictures and still hear what your guide is saying without having to be right up close to them. And I always say, when you start hearing static, you need to catch up.
Yes, yes.
Because the sound does carry quite a distance. But, you know, to me, they're very leisurely walking tours. I mean, a lot of people are concerned, I don't, you know, how fit do I need to be? Well, there's varying paces of tours. There's a faster pace, there's a regular, and there's a gentle walking tour. So based on your abilities, and I find even a lot of my older people in their 80s will say, I'm good with the regular walking tour. They've done the gentle, and they say that's a little too slow for me.
Yes.
Because we're seeing so much, and there's so much commentary by the guides that you're not walking that fast.
Exactly.
And even though by the end of the day, you're going to look at your device and show, God, I got 10,000 steps or 15,000 steps in today, you'd never really notice that you got that many steps. It works.
And we've had people just like to that with mobility issues that are concerned that I can't do the tours because I'm not capable of keeping up with a regular pace tours, where even if there's two of them, we've had a guide specifically for them that's been able to take them, so that we have something for everybody on board.
It is wonderful. And I guess that brings us to our section. My good friend now, Darlene Myers, who has a nice wine blog every week that I enjoy every Saturday. Wine, it's just my opinion. And
we get to make a
toast.
We
get to make a toast, and she's going to be on next to talk a little bit about wine, because when I met her at a good friend's, and she does the wine tastings locally here in Halifax, where she gets together for special occasions and does some great fun, a lot of laughs. And Darlene is from Newfoundland, so I mean,
yes,
everyone I've ever met from Newfoundland is a fun-loving character. And so I've met her there, and I said, well, why you should join me as a co-host on one of these river cruises. And so she was all over that. And without further ado, Darlene will be my co-host on the Taste of Bordeaux trip.
And that's wonderful. And you know, drinking good wine with good food in good company is one of life's most civilized pleasures.
That's right. Cheers. Well, hi, everybody, and I'm so excited to be here, and I want to thank Richard and Sandra for inviting me to this. And Bordeaux is number one on my bucket list. From the time I started drinking red wine, I've always wanted to see Bordeaux. And the funny thing is, I started taking wine courses because I didn't actually know what was in the bottle, because a lot of French winemakers bottle their wine by region, not by grapes. So I never knew what I was buying, but you know, Bordeaux, whether you're buying white, red, or dessert, it's a blend. And the dominant white grapes are a beautiful silky smooth grape called Sommelier and Sauvignon Blanc. And the two main reds are Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot. So they're good full-bodied wines. And Bordeaux is the wine capital of the world. They produce 700 million bottles of wine every year. And if you look at your local liquor store's website, some of the most expensive ones on there will be from Bordeaux. But I do write a wine blog every Saturday. I like to take the mystery out of wine. Good wine doesn't have to be expensive, and that's what my wine blog is about every Saturday morning. It's www.darlenemyers.com. Wine, it's just my opinion, but I really focus on wines that are under $20 for the most part, under $25. Great wines under those prices. So I'm going to pass it over to Sandra. We'll talk a little bit more about wine as we go through, but she has done this fantastic wine tour, the Taste of Bordeaux, so she's going to tell us about that.
And certainly Darlene has introduced me to a lot of great wines under $20 that I rushed out after her. And some I like and some I don't. And that's one of the things that her and I have in common. She's not a pretentious sommelier. She's down to earth. She knows that we all have different palates, all different likes and dislikes. And that's what I love about Darlene and the wines that she's presenting. She's not expecting.
Well, that's why they call it Newfoundland. Fun is right in the middle. You can't have a Newfoundlander on board and not have fun. It's like a rule.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, Darlene, as you know, when you're enjoying wine, we have the 5 S's. And the 5 S's are see, swirl, smell, sip, and savor. So for those of you who have joined us this evening, if you did not come with your glass of wine, I would encourage you at this moment to go and grab a glass of your favorite red, because we are going to have moments throughout the remaining part of this presentation where you can see, swirl, smell, sip, and savor your red wine. And Darlene's going to share a little bit about that. So let's start with see the wine. So Darlene, you know that in Bordeaux, there's different wine regions, and we're definitely going to have an opportunity to see the wine. Is that not right?
Yeah, that's right. That's fantastic. So, there are basically 5 steps to a wine tasting, and Sandra, you nailed it perfectly. It's see, swirl, smell, sip, and savor. And the first one is to see. And the most important thing is to make sure that your wine's not cloudy. So if your wine is cloudy, the first thing I would do is smell it and see if it hasn't gone a bit skunky. And then you just bring it back to your local, wherever you bought the wine, and they'll replace it very happily. So that's what the see the wine is all about. But I'll tell you what I'm excited about seeing, and that's some of the spectacular scenery and architecture of Bordeaux, because Bordeaux is about more than just wine.
Absolutely, and thank you for that, Darlene. So a lot of people want to know why Bordeaux. Well, you know what? We've seen the wine, or we've seen it in the previous slide. So now we're going to take the next step, and we're going to walk you through the phases. So the next step is, Darlene?
Swirling the wine. So the reason why you do that, when I was training to drink wine properly, and let me tell you, I don't need a lot of help in that department, but in order to get the full wine experience, you would smell the wine first. And because many times that wine is a couple of years old, so it's been sitting stagnant, they want you to swirl the wine. And that's why, especially red wine glasses and some proper whites, they have a nice big base. And what that does, it gives you a great opportunity to swirl the wine. And what's that doing? It's aerating. It's putting oxygen in that wine. And it's also releasing all those aromas that were sitting stagnant in the bottle for how many ever years.
And I got to tell you, Richard and I've been swirling our wine, and whoops, and I'm not very good swirling my wine with my left hand, let me just say.
No, but that's what the swirling does. It releases all the aromas of the wine.
It smells amazing here. Let me just say, it absolutely smells wonderful.
And we've been swirling since 3 o'clock this afternoon.
Yes. Earlier presentation today. So a little bit about Bordeaux and why Bordeaux. First of all, Bordeaux is an area that is filled with history. Right from the Roman amphitheater that was built back in the 3rd century AD, still standing today. So amazing that you can go to this fortress and see that. And we have the Grand Theatre de Bordeaux, which has these statue-topped colonnades, and it is absolutely beautiful. It's like Paris almost when you look at this, right? You think of Paris. We have the Cathedral Saint-André de Bordeaux, and this cathedral is very, very Gothic in architecture, and it was built back in the 12th and 14th century. And it's, again, I think it's just
and when we do the
incredible.
tours of these, I mean, you're up close and personal to these buildings,
Right.
and I mean, we think of our history. It's nothing.
Right.
I mean, these buildings have been around for centuries. I mean, it's just incredible.
It's stunning, and they're still in such good shape. And then, of course, you have the Porte Calalou, this an amazing gateway into the city, and it stands 35 meters high, but it has this medieval architecture about it. And to me, with the bell in the center and the clock tower and everything, it's so impressive. And the ship is docked like 5 minutes away from here, so it's so easy to go. If you arrive that morning, early in the morning, you can go to the ship. We'll take care of your bags. You don't have to worry about them. If you're feeling a little bit tired, you want to rest in the living room on the ship, you can certainly do so. But if you feel like you want to go and explore, grab a map from the front desk and go out, and 5-minute walk and you're here at the port. So It is incredible.
Well, and that's one of the great things about river cruising is your hotel bed is moving with you.
Exactly.
Your hotel's moving with you when you travel, so you have the comforts of home, and they tend to be all berthed within walking distance of the centers of the cities.
Absolutely.
And if not, there's always transportation included if you're not berthed there, because we never really know where, I mean, river cruising is very popular and only so many ships can be at each berth. So, I mean, they always look after all of the transportation should you not be immediately there, but most times you are.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So now, Darlene, what is the next step in what we do? We have seen, we have swirled. What do we
And
do?
now it's time to smell. And Richard pointed out earlier that the glass that the man has in his hand is actually a tasting glass. So ours look gigantic. And, you know, whenever I go somewhere and bring this glass with me, people always laugh. But, you know, I like a big wine glass for that reason, to be able to swirl. They have a big bottom, which allows the wine to aerate, and then they narrow in at the top. And the reason that you can do that is to properly smell the wine. The glass should fit around your nose and your mouth, and it's proper way to smell the wine. This wine glass, whenever you go to a wine tasting, wherever you live, then chances are they're served in smaller tasting glasses. So yeah, smell your wine. See what you smell.
That's perfect. And actually, he's so good looking that he can have a small glass, and it's okay.
Right, absolutely. And the thing about Bordeaux wine is that there's basically, well, 5 regions officially, but people mostly know them as left bank, right bank, and Entre deux Mers. And for the reds, there's only so many grapes allowed to be grown in Bordeaux, so your reds always have Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot. The right bank Merlot, or the right bank of Bordeaux Merlot would be heavier, and on the left bank Cabernet Sauvignon. So I have a Merlot heavy Bordeaux here. So you can taste, you can smell, sorry, I can smell like the fruit, the cedar, some juicy plumness from that Merlot. Merlot tends to be a little more richer, not as tannic as a Cabernet Sauvignon. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. And another good reason to go to Bordeaux would be because of the world-class architecture. And of course, the city
Look at
itself,
that picture.
you can see the whitewashed buildings with it's authentic French architecture. It's what you expect to see when you're traveling in France. And it's so beautiful, especially Bordeaux being right on the water, and you can walk within the city limits and see so much. It's absolutely stunning.
There's some grapes.
And then Saint-Emilion, one of my favorite destinations on this cruise. The city itself was built from the underground up, so it's a concrete city. And when you're there, we're going to take you and walk around and share with you what's above ground, but we will also take you underground and show you the catacombs and the underground church and whatnot that is really in the heart of this little village. And I love Saint-Emilion. And then you have the Place de Bourse, which has the mirror pool. So this mirror pool has little holes where water will come spurting up in the warmer months, and
Like
quite
jets.
often, it's like jets in a pool, exactly. And in the summer months, when you travel here, you'll see all the kids dancing and playing in the water, and even adults. It's quite spectacular. I have 100 pictures myself from when I was here playing on Place de la Bourse. So amazing.
That's a stunning shot. I love the.
Yes, the Pont de Pierre. Now, this was the very first bridge that was built across the Garonne River, and just the history behind this is amazing. And it was demanded by Napoleon that this bridge be built. And it's interesting in that the Garonne River is where the ship is docked and is where Bordeaux is situated. And the Garonne River is where the ocean comes into the river. So it gets tidal bores, and the tide comes in and out. So we have to fix it with the ship, like schedule it with the ship so that the ship goes underneath this bridge and gets through before that tidal bore every time. And again, we have to time it all with the tides, and we're very careful about that and very safe, of course. And but it's an amazing thing to see this bridge and to experience. And you can imagine the technology back in the day that had to be the smarts that had to be there for them to create and build a bridge in that would incur all these wonderful things like tides and bores and whatnot.
Very reminiscent of the bridges in Prague, the Charles Bridge.
Yeah.
For those that have gone on that cruise with me.
Yes, the Charles Bridge
stunning.
in Prague, or the Chain Bridge in Budapest is another one. Yeah, absolutely stunning. And then we have the Chateau Boutonnet, which has an amazing restoration story. So when you're there, you really must hear that story, because I know that you're going to find it just incredible. And the city of Bordeaux, we go into Bordeaux and we attend a festival there, and it's like none other. And then of course, Pauillac. And Pauillac is a area where you're going to find all the chateaus. And there's 5 rather famous ones, but 3 of the 5 are really, really renowned. And that would be the Lafitte Rothschild and Latour and Mouton Rothschild. So if you've heard of Rothschild, and Darlene knows Rothschild, you won't be disappointed. Now you will see these. We don't actually go inside them, but you actually will see these. And if you do the hiking tour, you can get really up close and personal. What do you know about Rothschilds there, Darlene?
Well, Lafitte Rothschild was named the #1 winery in France for the 1873 Paris exhibition, and they've never lost that placing. They've been the #1 winery in France for 150 years. The cheapest wine that comes out of Lafitte Rothschild is $1,000 a bottle, and it goes up from there. You know, there's one in our liquor store here for $4,000 a bottle. So it's pretty treat wine, but you know, even the estate is, you know, supposed to be spectacular looking just to be able to see it and stuff. So.
Absolutely. And I know that in the Pauillac region that the wines are noted for having flavors of black currant. Some people have compared it to cigar boxes, pencils, cedar. So really different notes to what we're used to back here for sure.
Right, and what you're describing, you are describing the tasting notes of a Cabernet Sauvignon. So the wines of Pauillac are on the left bank, and they are Cabernet Sauvignon and cedar, tobacco, pencil shavings. Yeah, that's all words you use to describe a Cabernet Sauvignon.
Exactly. And then Chateau de Roquetaille. Oh my goodness, this was such an amazing experience when I was in Bordeaux. We went to this particular chateau one day, and this property has been lived in by the same family for 700 years. And the lady that took us through was an English lady. She was so much fun. Lots of giggles, by the way, on the way. And we went through the entire castle. It's still decorated by the people who are living in it. So it has a lot of really dated, different interior designing and whatnot. It's fascinating. And then when we were done, you got to roam and wander about the grounds, and it's spectacular. It's
looks
stunning.
wonderful from here.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
Yeah, exactly. So what's our next step? We have seen, we have smelled. We have
swirled, and now it's everybody's favorite part, the sip.
I think I cheated and sipped early.
I think I sipped every time.
And that is the best way to enjoy it, Sandra, is to sip every time.
Yes.
So if you're joining us this evening, sip and enjoy your wine. You know, one of the things I always say at my wine tastings is, I'm only here to facilitate, pour, and answer questions, because it's actually the guests of my wine tastings. And of course, I haven't done any in 2020 because of COVID-19. But once I became a certified sommelier, and actually taking the training for it, we had to do 30 hours of wine tastings to get our degree. And so I really enjoyed it because I met new people and I was there to answer questions and like I said, take the mystery out of wine. Wine is one of life's greatest pleasures and is meant to be enjoyed, not, yeah.
Well, that's why I leave it in my mouth so long. I don't want to,
Yes, we haven't got to that part yet. So Darlene, I have to ask you, now you said you took 30, so over the course of 30 hours, were you having to see, smell, do
600 wines. We had to blind taste test 600 wines over the 5 years. So some people can do it in 3.5 years. They only offer, like, there's 8 levels to get your certification, which is right behind me on this side. And but one of the years that they were offering one of the courses, we actually had to go down and work in a vineyard. I had a trip booked to the Bahamas with my sister, so I had to wait a year, which is why it took me 5 years. But we did over 200 hours in the classrooms. I think I did 63 exams. I've tasted 600 wines in blind taste testings, which we had to identify characteristics. And yeah, it took us 5 years. It was quite detailed.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
Yes.
And people ask me why I did it, and I said I loved the homework.
Well, you know what, Darlene, when you do the Taste of Bordeaux and you host this group alongside Richard, you can add another 100 tastes at least, because honestly, we're going to experience a lot of beautiful wines. Not just the wines, but we're also going to show you the music and the arts. And one of the places that will do this is in Bordeaux. And in Bordeaux, amazing little village. So you can bike from Bly to Bordeaux. When you get to Bordeaux, we take the bicycles away, of course, because then comes the wine tasting. And it's very interactive here. So you will taste some of the most exquisite whites in the region. Yes, they do have good white wine in France. And then we'll take you through to some of the reds. And you have these entertainers in this beautiful venue high atop the hill overlooking the river. And they play authentic French music. People are dancing. It is truly so much fun. So I know that you, along with all the guests on board, will enjoy the little festival that we will bring you in the beautiful city or village of Bordeaux. And another one of the music or the wonderful arts would be taking our guests to La Cité du Vin. And this is a wine museum. And my favorite part, not only does it have hosts and hosts and hosts of information about wine, but go to the wine bar. There are over 800 countries represented, and there's over 14,000 bottles of wine at the wine bar. So imagine you can do a tasting and you can pick different things. You can pick different brands that you like or countries or whatever, and you can buy bottles and take home with you. So just an absolutely wonderful opportunity to experience wine at the max. So now that we have seen, swirled, smelled, sipped, what do we do next, Darlene?
Well, it's all about savoring, and wine is meant to be enjoyed. I can't remember which poet said the most civilized thing in the world is a glass of wine. So it's savor. Like Richard said, he doesn't swallow his wine right away, and you don't have to. And you can, especially the first sip of a new bottle. Imagine trying a brand new wine you've never had before in Bordeaux. You're going to want to savor that wine a bit. So just hold it in your mouth for a second. Let every taste bud enjoy it and go from there. Cheers.
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 And then finally, we have the renowned vineyards. And as you know, Bordeaux is an itinerary that is so focused on the food and the culinary aspects. So again, talking about Saint-Emilion. And this was one of my favorite stops because we went to the Bic family, B-I-C, like the lighters and the pens. We went to their family winery and we did a wine tasting. And honestly, the wines there were so delicious. They were one of my personal favorites. Bly.
Look at the ship right there. See how close it's docked?
Exactly, to the vineyards. Imagine being that up close and personal to the vines themselves. And Bly is like the cradle in this particular region for the wines. So a whole different taste and feel to the grape that you have there. And did you know that at AmaWaterways, if you happen to be on shore and you're visiting some of these wineries, or you see a store and you see a bottle of wine and you think, oh my gosh, you know, the day that we're going to be cruising, I would love to bring that on board and sit and enjoy it on the sun deck. Am I able to do that?
You are. You are able to bring as many bottles on as you want. And now just remember, you can only take a couple home with you as far as getting back into the country without duty. But certainly when you look at the prices of European wines, it's incredible how inexpensive they are for great wines. So it's an opportunity for you to try varying wines. And like I said, it's not necessary. You're getting lots on the ship, and there's going to be lots of different ones each day for you to try. But if you want to bring,
and I think, Richard, people will be surprised at how little that they'll pay for wine. Like, I know when I became a sommelier, I went to Italy that year, and like, we pay so much for wine here in Canada, and over in the European countries, it flows like water. So it's actually, you'll be pleasantly surprised, even in France.
beautiful bottles, Darlene, for under €2. I mean,
Yeah.
and shocked to how lovely they were. It was, you know, and that was when I was in Prague and in Portugal and Spain.
Well, you take in for Italian wine, the cheapest Chianti Classico that we have here is $21 a bottle, and it goes up from there. And we were drinking Chianti Classico for €2 in Italy. So yeah, it's quite a bit cheaper over there.
Exactly. The wine is actually lesser expensive than the water in Europe. Yeah. So it is a truly a fact. And then, of course, you can't have wine without the culinary, right? And Bordeaux, because you're on the oceans and you have the rivers, you're going to be delighted with the seafood that you'll experience while you're there, the oysters in Aquitaine, the mussels, and our chef does the mussels like they're so delicious. White asparagus, escargot.
All those great. Now, if you're not a seafood lover, don't worry. There's lots of other choices as well. So it's just like our region. You know, people come here to experience our great culinary because of that wonderful seafood, and the same in Bordeaux, France. And,
absolutely.
And unlike here, which we have some great white wines, our red wines aren't necessarily my favorite here in the region. But when you're in Bordeaux, France, what a great opportunity to have world-class.
Absolutely.
wines.
And have you had white asparagus before?
I have.
It's so good. It's so good. I mean, our green asparagus is good, but the white asparagus is green on steroids. It's so good.
Look at the picture of Bordeaux.
Yes. And then we end our 7-night cruise in the beautiful city of Bordeaux. And after dinner, we will have you all go up to the sun deck, and we will do this wonderful Illumination cruise. So literally the ship, and it could be before dinner, depending on the time of year, but the ship will cruise down and come back as Bordeaux lights up at night. And it's such a moving experience. I get goosebumps every time I see it.
When you say it, it reminds me I've not done the Bordeaux, and that's one of the exciting parts, is to actually have that off my list. But I remember in Budapest, the Illumination tour at night is something else. It's truly
same
stunning.
idea. Yeah, it's absolutely spectacular.
Now, as Sandra mentioned, our cruise for 2022, we're talking April 2022, is the 7-night cruise. There are some options for pre and post, which we normally do include in most of our cruises. But with us having 2 river cruises in 2022, having the Bordeaux in the spring and the Gems in October, doing the other end of the Danube, we decided to keep this one just at 7 nights because a lot of people will be taking both. And so if someone wants to do the pre and post, we can certainly add that, but we, also will all be flying over together. And because this one is experiencing Bordeaux and not a specific wine cruise, you're gonna have lots of opportunity to drink wine, but this tour is about experiencing Bordeaux and the region. Whereas one of my future trips down the road will be going on an actual wine cruise that's all around wine. And I thought we could add some of this other pre and post later, but certainly if anyone wants to include this, including Paris, we can certainly add that. You just wouldn't be traveling with Darlene and myself for the pre and post portions.
Right, but they would have the cruise manager
They'd have
there
the
with
cruise
them through
managers
the pre
always
and
with
post
them
plan
throughout, and so
Mhm.
absolutely no problem. And you know, if we have enough people that want to do it, I could be convinced, you know, to
Yes, yes, we
to
can
do it
twist his
again.
arm,
We
so
were
if you want to
talking
do
earlier.
it.
I mean, when I said, you know, I can't wait to do the Douro again in
Yes,
Portugal and Spain. It's just one of those things that, you know, the second
yes,
time around, I could take the different excursions, you know.
yes. And you know what? It doesn't matter. I've been with the company for 12 years, and I can tell you that even having done the same itinerary multiple times, every time I do it, it's a new experience because you have different shore excursions, you have different guests on board. So it really does change from time to time.
Well, and bringing up that, I mean, I just did the Rhine last November. It's hard to believe that we're in that same time frame, and I had the opportunity to go and do it, so I did it. So the 26 people that'll be traveling with me in August of this year, 2020, or I shouldn't say this year, next year, 2021, it's nice to have already gone and be able to make recommendations and all that. I did the same with the Danube. I've done the Danube from Prague to Budapest twice. So this is my hosted trip in 2021. So anyone that would like to join us, the 26 of us are now going. We still have some space available. You could certainly sign up for that. And we have some excellent specials before the end of the year with substantial discounts, starting with a minimum of $600 off, right up to $1,000. We're also have free gratuities for everyone at $200 value. And Atlantic Tours is also including the cancel for any reason, right up to 24 hours prior to sailing, with a portion of future travel credit and cash back on the cruise. So I mean, there's very, very little risk here, and your deposit on any of these cruises is only $500 to lock in those savings. And certainly by 2022, we should be good. The gems that I mentioned here, for those that did the Danube with me a few years ago, where we went from Prague to Budapest, this is continuing. So we're actually going to go to Bucharest, Romania, and do Brasov.
Yes.
And then, you know, that's where Dracula's castle and everything is located. And then we're going to continue up the Danube to Budapest, where we'll have some, and why I've done a post on that one as well, is to give people that didn't do the first time around a chance to see Budapest, and everyone that's gone would love to see more of Budapest. So there's a chance for that, and then going on to Vienna for the last 2 nights. And who wouldn't like Vienna again, and the strudel and all of that great stuff. So then we'll fly home from there. So we have a 4-night pre and a 2-night post on that particular program for October of 2022. And life should be easily back to normal by then. And we have bookings on both. The other thing that I wanted to mention that's not river cruise oriented is Darlene and myself in our discussions decided, let's do something, you know, not everyone's thing is river cruise. I don't know why, but you know, it's certainly it should be part of your regime. But this is a tour that's going to stay within Canada, hopefully in June. If we can't travel safely, we'll definitely move the date to later. We have 10 people already signed up to go with us in June, and we just launched this not too long ago. And we'll be doing beautiful Quebec City and into the Niagara region to do Niagara Falls and Niagara on the Lake. And it's going to be doing a nice group of wineries and staying all within Canada. So if anyone's uncomfortable about traveling internationally in 2021, this is a great option for you in June. And now I guess we need to jump over to see if we have any questions there, Sandra.
Absolutely. So we'll just flip to this. Oops, I've moved that one. So now I got to move this.
But AmaWaterways, as far as riverboat cruising companies, they do an amazing job. Rudy, who I mentioned earlier, started not only Uniworld cruises, but also biking before branching out and starting and building his own ship. He's a master navigator that's involved with how the ships are all built, and when everyone else is not sailing, he's still sailing because that is his expertise, is sailing in rivers. And Christine has a great history in river cruising as well. And Gary, who you saw there, is the son of Jimmy, who was the original founder with Christine and Rudy. And Gary, we lost Jimmy a few years ago to an illness, and Gary has taken on the family end of the business, but they had great history as a tour operator. Brendan Vacations, or Brennan
Yeah.
Vacation,
Brendan.
Brendan, that was the
Yeah.
name, because they were a customer of Atlantic Tours for many,
Yeah.
many years,
Yeah.
bringing their clients to Atlantic Canada.
Exactly.
So that's where it kind of all wraps around, and even those that we didn't meet, we're still giving each other business. So that's a great opportunity.
Exactly. And I just want to point out, I'm not sure if they're still with us, but Jean, if you are still with us, we hope that you were able to connect to the audio. I see that you were having some audio issues. That's the only comment that we have. For anybody who was not able to hear us this evening, we will have this recorded and we will be sharing the link so that you'll be able to, again, pass that forward and share it with your friends or watch it once again.
Well, you make a good point, because today I hauled up our September presentation.
Yes.
And re-listened to us talking about the Rhine cruise and the Danube cruise.
Mm-hmm.
And so now we have the Bordeaux one. So I just wanted to listen to see what I left out or needed to include this time around. So I will send everyone that's been on, or if you couldn't make it tonight or couldn't hear, anyone that registered will get an email from me with the links to re-listen to this. And I'll also include the links from our September in case anyone has interest,
Yes.
any more interest in the Rhine or the gems.
Perfect. And Darlene, did you have anything you would like to share in closing?
You know, I'm just hope to meet everybody that joined. You have Richard, the director of fun. You have me from New Fun Land. So, you know, it's going to be a great time with great friends, great food, great wine.
And that's one of the things I love most, Darlene, is the smiles on the faces as we traveled the world. You know, having done this as many years as I have, I started off my career as a tour manager for the first 3 years, or actually 2 years. And in my third year, I came in as an assistant to the owner of the company. But my favorite part of working with Atlantic Tours is hosting the trips, taking people around to see the world. And, you know, so many of us work hard. And in my case, I work to travel. It's one of my favorite things to do. I love good food. I love good wine. And most of all, I love good people. And as I said to you earlier, when I brought up the pictures of the Douro to show the group and how much fun they were having, and I said, oddly enough, we don't attract bad apples. So, you know, we get like-minded people that like to have a good time and lots of laughs. And I think that's what we all want in life, especially after 2020.
Exactly.
So thank you all for listening in, and remember, great savings if you book and secure your reservation before the end of this year.
There you go. And the cat's ending the show.
The cat's ending the show. I hear him
So
chatting.
thank you all for joining us this evening, and stay well, be well, stay safe.
Happy holidays, and I'll be in touch soon.